The economic devastation brought about by COVID is beginning to reveal itself in stark terms. This is what CNBC says. Yelp data shows 60% of business closures due to the coronavirus pandemic are now permanent. Yelp on Wednesday released its latest economic average report, revealing business closures across the U.S. are increasing as a result of the coronavirus. As of August 31st, 163,735 businesses have indicated on Yelp that they have closed, a 23% increase since mid-July. According to Yelp data, permanent closures have reached 97,966, representing 60% of closed businesses that won't be reopening. This is an aspect of what happened with COVID and the CARES Act that's not discussed nearly enough. But what you're very likely to see happen is, as all of these smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses go under, you have the big businesses swoop in and buy them up. So you have this corporate consolidation and this move towards monopolies, further exacerbating wealth and income inequality. And you have a distinct shift away from small business entrepreneurship and, people kind of controlling their own destiny and making a living that way. And, this is not good. This is not good. If you're a small business enthusiast, this should terrify you. Because let me tell you something, these 60% of business closures, yeah, they're small businesses. The large ones can weather the storm. The large corporations got bailouts, giant bailouts. The crumbs that went to the smaller businesses, it's not enough for them to weather the storm. And so we're going to see this giant consolidation. And listen, there's some big businesses I like, of course, but I would love it if we still had the option to go to small business restaurant, for example, and this really is kind of like a death blow to another aspect of what would commonly be called the American dream. 60% of business closures are now permanent. Think about all the lives that were destroyed. Now, as this is going on, I got more for you. The top 1% of Americans have taken $50 trillion from the bottom 90%, and that's made the U.S. less secure. This is not some back-of-the-napkin approximation, according to a groundbreaking new working paper by Carter C. Price and Catherine Edwards of the Rand Corporation. Had the more equitable income distributions of the 3 decades following World War II, 1945 through 1974, merely held steady, the aggregate annual income of Americans earning below the 90th percentile would have been $2.5 trillion higher in the year 2018 alone. That is an amount equal to nearly 12% of GDP, enough to more than double median income, enough to pay every single working American in the bottom 9 deciles an additional $1,144 a month, there's your UBI, every month, every single year. Price and Edwards calculate that the cumulative tab for our 4-decade-long experiment in radical inequality had grown to over $47 trillion from 1975 through 2018. At a recent pace of about $2.5 trillion a year, that number we estimate crossed the $50 trillion mark by early 2020. That's $50 trillion that would have gone into the paychecks of working Americans had inequality held constant. $50 trillion that would have built a far larger and more prosperous economy. $50 trillion that would have enabled the vast majority of Americans to enter this pandemic far more healthy, resilient, and financially secure. So if we have the same amount of income and wealth inequality that we had in what was called the golden age of economic expansion in the United States, working people would be $50 trillion wealthier. So the top 1% has rigged the game and have effectively taken $50 trillion from the bottom 90%. Isn't that incredible? I mean, you go back, how many times have we talked about this on the show, but you go back to like the 1970s, for example, and you get the CEO to worker pay ratio. Like the CEO would make like 24 times what the average worker would make. Now that's a big difference. That's a big difference. But you know, somewhere within the realm of that which is reasonable. You might say, hey, maybe 10 to 1 is more fair or whatever, but that's where we were. Today it's like 300 or 350 to 1. That's the CEO to average worker pay ratio. This is right in line with that kind of a fact. Like, oh, if we just held steady from what we were doing back then, working people would be $50 trillion richer, and you would be able to weather the storm of a pandemic. But the economy's rigged. All the money's going to the corporations and the wealthy, and so you're screwed. And so 46% of the country has, quote, serious financial problems. 30 some odd percent couldn't pay their rent. And this is going back a couple months now. I don't know how else to say this, guys. We need drastic action now. Now. And the two things that pop up in my mind first are Medicare for all, because everybody deserves healthcare as a human right, and we're just catching up to the rest of the developed world if you do that, and you get rid of a giant bill, which is a problem for a lot of Americans. Medical bills is one of the top causes of bankruptcy. Take that off the table. Medicare for all for everybody now, and also universal basic income. I mean, there's your UBI right there. It's $1,144 more every month, every year. That's if we just kept the system functioning in the same level of income and wealth inequality as we had during the golden age of economic expansion. Those are the first two things that pop in my mind. And now we need it more than ever. I mean, listen, we got to learn from history, learn from what FDR did with the New Deal. Yes, we could do a Green New Deal, emphasis on the New Deal part, create millions of, good paying jobs that are in renewable and green energy and technology. Definitely can do that. Rebuild our infrastructure all across this country, make it an A+. But we need Medicare for all, and we need UBI. We have to radically change the country because we can't keep going like we're going right now. And if this article is true, and I think it is, that is effectively the 1% robbing all working people in this country, and they've been doing it your entire life. Your whole life. Because some people will listen to, when we talk about UBI, they'll look at it as like, it's welfare, you're getting something that you're not owed. Wrong. The welfare has always cut in the other direction. It's working people giving welfare to the wealthy. There is class war in this country, and it's waged by the rich on working people. All the rules are rigged in their favor. When corporations and wealthy individuals give money to the politicians, and then the politicians turn around and give them giant subsidies and giant bailouts, that's welfare. That's the thing that you're supposed to be against. That's money for absolutely nothing. It's the corrupt system. That's what that is. And so when one of us says, hold on, I want to eliminate that welfare, and I just want to give the people what they're owed. If you want to just give the people what they're owed, working people got $50 trillion coming now, don't they? Give us Medicare for all. We got to do a UBI. I like the way Andrew Yang frames it when he says, what does he call it? Freedom dividend? Something along those lines? Like, the idea is, no, you're a stakeholder in America. That's what you are. So in the same way that if you own a blue chip stock, you get paid. If you're born in America, you're an American citizen, there's a freedom dividend. There's an American payment. It's Social Security for all. That's more my framing than his framing, that part. But yes, you're part of this country. You're not getting anything you weren't owed. This is part of the deal. And if anything, the wealthy and the corporations have been robbing this country blind for decades, ever since they started allowing money in politics. And so it's time to get back what we're owed. And this is unacceptable. And we need to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, are we really okay with this? Are we really okay with 60% of businesses closing due to the coronavirus? And it's staying like that? Are we really okay with corporations consolidating and monopolies popping up and controlling markets and then jacking up prices and screwing people along the way and paying people crap? Are we really okay with that? Are we okay with the system continuing to be rigged in favor of the wealthy? I'm certainly not. We know the answers. We just have to fight for them and get them implemented. I really think the only way is a general strike. Because the politicians aren't going to listen to us unless we make them listen to us. And the best way to do that is to cut off their money. How do you cut off their money? Stop working. But we all got to do it. We all got to get out there. We have to have a clear list of demands. And this is the only way we succeed. Because divided, we're definitely going to fall because we've been divided all along. And look at what they've been doing to us.